Hello, everybody, and welcome into the only sports talk show that really matters. Of course, it's right here on IUP-TV. It's The Big Hit. I'm your host. My name is Joshua. We've got a great show lined up for you here today. A lot of sports to discuss. As always, we're going to begin by crashing the boards with some college basketball talk. Looking forward to what should be an absolutely tremendous weekend in the world of college basketball. And then we have our rapid fire segment, a plethora of sports questions. Limited time to answer those questions. Should be a lot of fun. Then we'll move on to the Olympic hockey segment, looking forward to the knockout stage after group play has concluded. And then, of course, we're debuting the segment once again for the spring 2014 semester as fan interference comes back here on The Big Hit. You've tweeted your questions in all weekend long and have submitted them also on Facebook. Our analysts will answer those questions for you right here tonight. And then the Crimson Huddle recapping the crazy weekend that was at the KCAC this weekend as the IUP Crimson Hawks squared off against Gannon. And looking forward to the games that both teams have left. Where can the Crimson Hawks finish in the PSAC West standings? And of course, we'll close the show out as always with Sean McCarthy and the 2-minute drill. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, because the Big Hit's coming up right now. And welcome into the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here on this sports roller coaster called The Big Hit. We're going to begin by crashing the boards, college basketball. A lot to talk about in college basketball. Joining us for that, it's Vaughn Dalzell, and in the middle, Eric Kormos. Guys, let's just get right into this college basketball talk. After Michigan and Michigan State both lost this week, Michigan losing to Wisconsin, Michigan State, of course, losing to the Nebraska Cornhuskers, the Big Ten really is in limbo. Who would you consider to be the best team in the Big Ten?
This one's really easy to me. We talked about this earlier, Eric, and I just think that Michigan State is the runaway team here. To me, they're just more of a title contender, and they have been. Michigan beat them earlier in the year by 5, but to me, I still consider them better. Keith Appling, Adrian Payne and company, Gary Harris, they're just so much senior leadership there. Gary Harris chose to come back this year just because he knows how good of a team they are. So I feel like they're better than the Wolverines, and they'll beat them next time they play.
You look top to bottom, the Big Ten is definitely the best conference in the country. 5 teams in the AP top 25. In conference play, Michigan, Michigan State both sit at 10-3 on top of the standings. Iowa is just a game behind them. But when you look defensively and offensively in terms of statistics, Michigan State leads the Big Ten in defensive field goal percentage, while Michigan leads in terms of offensive field goal percentage. So you can make an argument either way, but I'm going to go with Michigan and just exactly what you said. They went into East Lansing last month and walked out of there with an 80-75 victory. And I know we talk a lot about Michigan State's history and the NCAA tournament and making deep runs, but don't forget, John Beilein at West Virginia, he made a Final Four run as well. So he's got that in him, and I think Michigan's a quality basketball team.
Yeah, it's incredible how everybody in the Big Ten Conference is just beating each other. You can't forget a team like Iowa also, as you mentioned, Eric, sitting just kind of at that middle of the pack. Third in the standings currently, but another team in the Pac-12 lost, and that was the Arizona Wildcats. They lost to in-state rival Arizona State by a score of 69-66 in double overtime, a really tremendous game. So that caused the polls to kind of go into limbo, so to speak. Who do you think deserves the number 2 spot in the polls between Florida or Wichita State?
Well, here I agree with the AP top 25. Florida Gators. They play a tougher schedule than Wichita State, but you could definitely make a case for Wichita State, 27-0, the only other undefeated team. But Casey Prather, Patrick Hill and company, they're dominating. They play basketball. They score. They rebound hard. They beat every team, 17-game win streak. Their last loss was December 2nd versus Connecticut. So it's been a long time, but you could say the same for Wichita State. But I feel like those two squared off. Florida Gators would take it.
You make a good argument for Florida, and I can definitely see people wanting to pick the Gators for the number 2 spot. But I'm going to go with Wichita State for a lot of reasons that you mentioned. They're 27-0. Anybody in Division I basketball that can go undefeated, I don't care what conference you're in, that's an impressive feat. And they're in the Missouri Valley Conference. This isn't the Big West or the Summit League. They perennially put a couple teams into the NCAA tournament. Now, they've also beaten 2 SEC teams this year, Alabama and Tennessee. And when you look at the SEC, don't get confused. It's not SEC football. Their basketball programs they're good, but they're not upper echelon like a Big 10 or a Big 12. So right now they only have 2 ranked teams in Kentucky and Florida. Florida makes a very strong argument. They're just a hair below them at number 3, but you got to go 2 for the Shockers, just because of the fact that they are 27-0. Winning 27 games against Division I opponents is not an easy thing.
Absolutely, it's been really a shocking season for Wichita State. They have about a 90-some% chance to finish the year undefeated, which would really be a very impressive feat.
Yeah.
But speaking of impressive feats, you look at college basketball and their rivalries, and one of the most storied rivalries in all of college basketball is North Carolina and Duke. The game was supposed to be last week. The weather obviously delayed that, pushed back to this Thursday. Preview this game, who's going to win, and what do you expect out of it?
This is going to be a tough game. These 2 teams are going to go at it. They always go at it. It's a rivalry, but I think Duke has a slight chance here. I don't think James McAdoo and Marcus Page are going to be enough to handle Jabari Parker, Rasheed Solomon, Rodney Hood. Like, these guys are all putting up around 15 points a game or more. They're just dominating right now, and they're getting on a roll. The Tar Heels just struggled their last game versus Maryland, I believe. They only won by about 4 or 5 points. But it depends. It really depends on which Duke team comes to play. Because if they come when they came to play like Clemson, Notre Dame, to say, they're not going to come out. But if they play like they played Syracuse, I definitely think the Blue Devils have this one in the bag.
This will be interesting. Duke is playing at home, so that's a major advantage for them, playing at Cameron Indoor. Both teams come into this game playing very good basketball. Duke has won 8 of 9 by an average of 22 points. Their only loss was on the road at number 1 Syracuse, that other undefeated team. And that was in overtime as well, in front of 35,000 people in the Carrier Dome up there. Carolina, they started 1-4 in the ACC. Very slow start for them. They've come back, and they've won 9 of 10. They just beat Florida State the other night in Tallahassee. So I'm going to go with Duke. But that's only because they're playing at Cameron Indoor Stadium. I think it'll be a close game. I'm going to go 84-81 Duke. So go Devils.
Yeah, absolutely.
Prove me right, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Blue Devils have a tough task ahead of them after North Carolina. You obviously don't want to look ahead, but it's kind of tough when you have the number 1 team in the nation in Syracuse coming in. That's part of one of the best weekends, at least in recent memory, that I could think of in terms of matchups, at least on paper. Looking at some of these matchups with Syracuse and Duke, Texas and Kansas, Louisville and Cincinnati, Wisconsin and Iowa, Michigan State and Michigan. Which game do you think is the most intriguing out of these 5 tremendous matchups, and who do you think will win all 5 of these games, real quick?
Well, the most intriguing, obviously, is Syracuse and Duke, just because of the game they had last one and their number 1, number 5 ranked teams. But I went a different path. I said Michigan State and Michigan. Basically, the rivalry there is just known, crosstown rivals, and I think it's going to be a better game than the other one. I feel like Michigan State will come out on top. Syracuse and Duke now. I'm going to go Duke with a double-digit win here. I think they upset them. Quote me on it, but I hope I'm right. It's a big thing to say there. Louisville and Cincinnati. I'm going Louisville. I like Russ Smith a lot. Last year they were a very good team. They lost a lot, but I feel like Cincinnati's not enough. And you go Kansas, Texas. Andrew Wiggins is not going to go 2 for 12 again versus Texas. He's not. He's going to come out, have a big game. And the last game, Iowa and Wisconsin. I feel like Iowa's a team to prove. They're running there in the Big Ten with Michigan State, Michigan, and I feel like it's going to be a very defensive game this time around. Maybe not over 70 points, but I feel like the Hawkeyes come out on top.
All right, I'm going to go for the most intriguing matchup of the weekend. You already talked about Duke, Syracuse, the rematch there, 2 top 5 teams. That's going to be the big headlines. But I'm going to go to Big 12 territory in the Midwest. We're going to look at Kansas versus Texas. You have the Big 12 first place is on the line. It's coming into crunch time here, the last couple of weeks of conference season, going into conference tournaments, seedings, and things like that. Texas already defeated Kansas before. I think Kansas is going to pay them back at home. I'm going to take Duke at home as well over Syracuse, just that the home court advantage, I should say, playing at Cameron Indoor Stadium. I also like that Cincinnati-Louisville matchup. That conference, the American Conference, has kind of been forgotten this year. You had some Big East teams that defected, St. John's, Georgetown, etc. Pitt left, Syracuse left, and it's kind of been almost a forgotten conference. But that's 2 major teams in there. SMU has been ranked this year, so there's some quality basketball in that conference. When you slide over to the Big Ten, I'm going to go with Iowa. I think Iowa can pull it off. They've done a great job there, kind of rebounding that program, rebuilding some of the momentum that they had. I'm going to go with Michigan and a repeat at home over Michigan State, go 2-0 against the Spartans and take a game up in the Big Ten standings.
It should be a really tremendous weekend in college basketball. A lot of great matchups. Hopefully you can tune in and watch a lot of them. A little note for Eric Kormos. He will be debuting on the Crimson Hawk Sports Network this Saturday, so make sure you tune in for that. More to come on that in the Crimson Huddle. But when we return, we will send it to Sean McCarthy. He's posted up on the other side of the studio with the rapid fire. Stay tuned.
How are we going to watch this when you are just in La La Land? This is embarrassing.
Is that bad?
Look at you.
You know, I thought this was a pretty good segment.
Did you?
Yeah.
Do you even know what they're saying?
No.
You're putting your foot up on set. You just think this is a couch? This is embarrassing. I mean, even here, you're starting to interrogate somebody. Look at you. Turn your back to the camera. That's embarrassing. Where's your suit and tie? You have a pirate shirt on.
They made the playoffs.
I don't care. You can't be biased. This is ridiculous. Ay, Dios mío.
It's gonna get louder.
Hello, welcome back to The Big Hit. I'm Sean P. McCarthy. I'm here with Kevin Bohan on my left and James Davis on my right. And we call this segment right here Rapid Fire. And how this works is these two guys are going to have 30 seconds. I'm going to ask them a question. They have 30 seconds to answer. And at the end of the 30 seconds, they hear this sound. And that means time is up. So finish your thoughts. I'm going to start with you. First question. With the NBA trade deadline coming up on Thursday, which contending team has the biggest need to make a trade in order to win a championship?
Well, I'm going to go with the Miami Heat on this one, and I feel like they need to get another guard to complement LeBron James. Since Dwayne Wade's always getting hurt, they need somebody possibly like Ben Gordon from the Bobcats, who's been in the trade mill for a while now, as a good shooter, someone they could pick up to help out LeBron James when Wade's out.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to have to pick the Dallas Mavericks. I think if they could get a rim protector, that would help them a lot. Samuel Dellenbert and DeJuan Blair just seem to be underachievers. If they could get somebody with experience who can come in and get boards, protect the rim, and score, I think that would help them. So basically somebody with more experience, not a role player, because they have an offense that can make some noise.
All right, we'll go with the next question. Who is currently the most underrated team in college basketball, Kevin?
Well, for me, it's Connecticut. They're ranked about 20th right now, and I feel like with Shabazz Napier out there, who's one of the top players in the country, and Ryan Boatwright, they could beat a lot of good teams. They've proved it. They've beat Memphis twice. They've also beat a Florida team who I think right now is the best team in the country. So I feel like Connecticut should be ranked much higher than they are right now.
For me, I'm going to have to pick Iowa State. I believe last year this team wasn't even thought of. I know they weren't thought of for me. This team is leading the nation in 90.9 in wins, scoring, actually, and acquiring DeAndre Kane and Dustin Hugh is a big help to the team. So I think Iowa State.
All right, UConn and Iowa State. Sticking with college basketball, which game is Duke more likely to lose? On the road against UNC or at home against Syracuse?
Now, I'm a Duke fan on this one, but I feel like they're more likely to lose at North Carolina than at Syracuse. I feel like they have a chip on their shoulder from the Syracuse game, and Syracuse's zone is perfect for Duke's offense because they're a bunch of great shooters. And you could throw all records out when North Carolina comes to town, or Duke goes to North Carolina.
Nope, sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there. Go ahead, James.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disagree and pick Syracuse. Granted, the games have been close that they won, but I still think this team keeps their composure at the late stretch of the games in order to win those games. You have C.J. Fair, who can come and score a critical basket if you need, or Tyler Ennis. And we seen the Pitt game where Tyler Ennis made that buzzer beater, and then we seen NC State.
Nope, sorry, going to have to cut you off there. All right, let's talk a little bit of hockey now. Which NHL player has underperformed the most in the Olympics through the group stage?
Well, I wouldn't say he's underperformed as much, but Patrick Kane, the 5th leading goal scorer in the NHL, has yet to score in the Olympics. So I feel like he needs to step it up a little bit, get some goals on his statistics for this Olympic Games.
I wouldn't say this guy has underachieved a little bit, but I would say we're not used to seeing. I think we could see more production out of him, and that's Alex Ovechkin. I think the summer rest is like rubbing off a little bit, and I think it's just a little pressure has gotten to him. So I think he can produce more.
All right, so we have Alex Ovechkin and Patrick Kane. Now with a little bit of baseball talk, spring training's coming up. With A.J. Burnett signing with the Phillies, do the Pirates need to go out and sign another pitcher before the end of spring training?
I don't think they need to make it their main priority to go out and sign another pitcher. They still have Cole and Volquez, and they should be able to hold up. They have a pretty solid pitching staff. I don't think it should be their main concern.
I think they should go out and grab somebody to replace those 191 innings that Burnett had produced for them. I think that was a huge loss. So if they could grab someone with experience and can replace those, I think they'll be better off with experience and hopefully can make a stretch.
All right. Oh, right at the buzzer, too. All right, we're going to throw a scenario out here now. Would you guys rather play golf with Charles Barkley or a pickup game of basketball with President Barack Obama? Kevin?
I'm going to go with playing basketball against Barack Obama. I've heard Charles Barkley speak on television, and I don't know if I'd be able to handle an entire game of golf with Charles Barkley. And plus, I'm more of a basketball fan than golf, so I'm going to have to go basketball with Barack Obama.
All right, how about you, James?
I'm more of a basketball fan, too, so playing with Barack would be very fun. I would have heard and seen is he's very good, but I don't think he's any Arnie Duncan, who's starred in the All-Star Celebrity Game and got MVP. And I think he's a lot better, actually. And Arnie Duncan is the Secretary of Education in the United States, in case you guys didn't know.
All right. I personally rather golf with Charles Barkley just because he's hilarious, and I would like to win, and I think I could beat Charles Barkley in a round of golf. But thank you guys for joining us, Kevin, James. Thank you, and you guys stay tuned. We're going to talk a little bit hockey in the penalty box with Melissa and Ben next. Stay tuned.
Here at the Big Hit, we like to be prepared because sometimes technology doesn't always work, so we do what we can.
Hey, Sean, hit him up.
This just in, Tim Tebow just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. That's not right.
Maybe we need to prepare just a little more.
If figuring out the questions or spinning an oversized wheel doesn't cut it for your game show excitement, then come on down to IUP-TV's Game Show Hour. Join Sam Iacano at 7 p.m. for the quiz show for the simple-minded. No-brainer. Then at 7:30, join Andrew Piper for a fun half hour of questions and physical challenges on IUP-TV's newest series, Mind Over Matter. The new IUP-TV Game Show Hour, Tuesday through Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. Join us for all the fun.
Hello, friends. Welcome back into the Big Hit. It's time to talk some Olympic hockey, the 2014 Winter Games in Sochi, Russia. Good to have the Olympics here. Joining us for this segment from the graphics room, of course, it's the graphics man himself. Those lower thirds you see, it's all this guy right here, Ben Snyder, joining the show. Welcome, Ben. And the hockey expert also, Melissa Essing, joins the set. Guys, group play has concluded in the Olympic Games, and now it's time for the knockout round. Which team has exceeded your expectations, and which team fell short of them?
Well, for exceeding expectations, I'm going to take the USA because they won every game they played. They won against Slovakia 5-1. They won against Russia 3-2 in a shootout thanks to the efforts of T.J. Oshie. And they bombed Slovenia 7-1 thanks to Phil Kessel and his natural hat trick. Everyone thought Russia was going to win that group stages, but Russia didn't. They kind of, did their own thing. They got by, but the U.S. took it through the efforts of John Quick and Ryan Miller in that one game. And as for the disappointment, I'm going to go with Slovakia because they're an older team. Their average age is around 30 or so, which doesn't seem like it's that old, but considering the talent on Russia and the USA and every other team like that, they are getting old. And they lost Marian Gaborik to injury before the Olympics even started. Halak, Budaj, and Leko, the goalies for Slovakia, didn't really do their job either.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to say that Russia definitely fell short of my expectations. They're on home ice. That's kind of a lot of pressure on them to win it all. And they lost to USA in a shootout. They barely beat Slovakia. I just don't really think that they really fell up to my expectations. But I'm going to have to say that Slovenia exceeded my expectations because they were kind of considered to be a warm-up team for the other teams. They only have one NHL star on their roster currently, and no one really saw it coming that they'd be doing so well. And they played an excellent game against Russia. They defeated Slovakia, and today they defeated Austria to move to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, Russia certainly underachieving in the eyes of most. They thought they would win that group stage. United States ended up winning along with Canada, Finland, and Sweden earning the byes here to the quarterfinals. Of these 4 teams, which team has the best chance of making the gold medal game, and which team has the toughest road to getting to the gold medal game?
I'm taking Canada for the best chance to win because they play Latvia, first of all, which is tomorrow around, I think, noon for us. And Latvia, they don't have the talent to hang around with Canada for that long. They'll probably win like 5-1, maybe 5-2. And then they play probably the U.S. I mean, it's almost goes without saying they'll beat the Czechs, but it's not a solid set in stone thing yet. And then they'll have to play either Sweden or Russia or even Slovenia or Finland. And those teams, I don't see them going past Canada. And as for the team with the toughest chance to get through, I'm going to go with Russia because they beat Norway today, but Norway isn't the best team around there. Next up, they have to play Finland, who's a very defensively sound team with Olimata, and they have a lot of goalies. And then they have to play Sweden next, when Sweden wins. And Sweden's the best team on the Olympic stage, and they're the #1 seed, and they should win that game.
All right, I'm going to have to say United States for making gold and potentially taking the gold with them. Defense and goaltending has been the key to their success, and their scoring talent sets them over the edge. They are currently the most complete team in the tournament, and several forwards on the USA team are capable of offensive dominance. And goaltender Jonathan Quick is a former Stanley Cup champion, and he is great in short tournaments such as this, so I see him taking them very far. And their toughest challenge will be a matchup with Canada in the semifinals. Canada has been dominant when it comes to possession with the tournament, and with a world-class defense, Canada has also the potential to see gold yet again.
Yeah, speaking to the United States, really going into this tournament, it was a big issue of who was going to be the goaltender for them. Was it going to be Jonathan Quick or Ryan Miller? Jonathan Quick has, I'd say, far exceeded a lot of expectations. He's played very well. One of the coolest things about the Olympics, though, is the fact that we get to see players who are normally confined to NHL teams kind of play with other players and go against each other. Some players who are on the same teams playing against each other. So who is your MVP of the tournament so far?
I'm taking the man with 7 points right now in 3 games, Phil Kessel. 3 of his goals came from a natural hat trick against Slovenia. And he knocked up a couple assists with Russia, playing with his teammate James Van Riemsdyk, who is also his teammate in Toronto Maple Leafs. They have instant chemistry together, and they just click on the ice alongside center Joe Pavelski.
All right, I too am going with Phil Kessel. To say you got a hat trick in the Olympics is quite an accomplishment. He became the first U.S. player to do so in more than a decade. And additionally, Kessel is the first American with 4 goals in the 3-game preliminary round at the Olympics since Bill Cleary and Roger Christian both pulled off the feat in 1960.
Yeah, a lot of great performances here. And looking at the bracket, you can see it behind you on the screen. Which teams do you think are going to make the medal round? Who is going to win the gold, silver, and who's going to win the bronze? Let's close this out here.
All right, so in the quarterfinals, I have Sweden beating Slovenia, Russia beating Finland, Canada beating Latvia, and USA beating the Czechs. As for the semifinals, I have Russia beating Sweden. Lundqvist can't handle the Russians they're going to get their scoring up. They're going to start scoring more goals. Ovechkin and Malkin are going to start clicking together. And there's going to be no support from the Swedes. As for USA, Canada, I think Canada is going to lose to the USA. USA is going to exercise their demons, and they're going to beat the Canadians thanks to the efforts of Phil Kessel and Patrick Kane. Now, in the gold medal game, USA is going to beat the Russians in a fantastic rematch of the group stage play. It should be a close game like it was before. It'll probably go to OT, but I don't think it'll go to a shootout this time. And as for the bronze game, Canada is going to beat Sweden because Canada is a powerhouse team. They're going to be upset that they lost to the U.S., and they're going to score all over the injury-ridden Sweden team who just can't hang with Canada anymore.
All right, well, I'm going to have to say Russia for bronze, although they're not, well, they did a great job today in their game. I do think that they need to keep up with the momentum that they had today, but I could see them possibly coming out with the bronze medal. For silver, I am going with Sweden. They got the top seed due to Canada needing overtime to beat Finland, and which is a huge deal. They have Lundqvist in the net, and that means that they have a good chance of running away with the silver. And for gold, I'm going to have to say either U.S. or Canada, but I think my gut's telling me United States. They've been such a complete team in this tournament.
Yeah, you're right. The United States, they've really played well. I've been very impressed with how the United States have played. Goaltending, a big key in this Olympic hockey tournament, really getting into the nitty-gritty of this Olympic hockey tournament. Thanks, guys. Previewing the Olympics, Ben Snyder making his big hit debut, and Melissa Essing. Coming up next, the band may not be on the field, but the fan interference segment will be here on the Big Hit. Stay tuned.
Want to learn more about IUP-TV? We have the solution. IUP-TV is now online on Facebook. You can find us by simply searching Facebook for IUP-TV. Once you click like, you can check out your favorite shows on our IUP-TV showcase, view our broadcast schedule, get updates on everything about your favorite station, and tell us how much you love your favorite shows. IUP-TV, not like other stations.
Listen, all I'm saying is LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan.
Why did everybody get so quiet?
Welcome back, everybody. This is our social media segment. Alongside me is Kyle Condor. I'm Connor Joyce. And we're going to get started real quick here because this is going to be a really great segment, and I hope you guys are all ready. First up, we have Eddie Delabic from, I'm not sure where he's from actually, but he asked, do you think Lance Stephenson deserves to be an all-star? If so, over who?
I think this is a great question by Eddie and something that a lot of people were wondering about when they made the selections. Lance Stephenson definitely deserved to be an all-star, not only because he's amongst the league leaders in triple-doubles, but this guy puts on a show out there, and that's what people like to see during All-Star Weekend. You had guys out there like Joe Johnson, who was just there for his name. You have people out there like Joakim Noah, who's a great player, but he's mainly a defender. So it's people like that that Lance Stephenson should have been in the game over, just to kind of put on a show out there, and also because, like I said, he's amongst the league leaders in triple-doubles this year as an Indiana Pacer.
There you go.
Next up, we have Croninator 3, who was responded to by Charles Simpson Brow. The two of them want to know if Durant leads the Thunder to an NBA Finals victory over whoever comes out of the East, will he dethrone LeBron as the best player in the NBA?
Come on, guys. I mean, come on. LeBron James is the best NBA player in the league right now, hands down. Kevin Durant, I get, is a good basketball player, and he's great, but he's going to win the MVP this year, but he's not better than LeBron James. We can't get too overhyped. I know that the media is going to be all over this summer, as Charles Simpson Brow said, but Durant isn't a LeBron James yet. He's a great basketball player. He's definitely number 2 in the NBA, in my opinion, right now, but it's a long way to get to number 1, and it's going to be a long way for him to ever reach to where LeBron James is.
Well said, Connor. And then you have Charles, who responds to him and asks, if Durant were to lead Team USA to a championship over Spain in the summer, what else could the media say that LeBron has on Durant, that he won a Finals MVP? And that's fair for Charles to say, because Durant kind of leads a team on his own will. LeBron needs the help of others. That's not saying anything about either of them individually, which is why I think you make a great point, Connor. LeBron James is a better overall basketball player. He kind of needs a team around him. Durant is a great basketball player in the sense that he could take a team on his back like he has done with the Thunder during this little stint of the season and win games. So they both have something special about them.
Well, to say back to you, Durant hasn't won a championship yet, so he does need a little help. Hopefully when he gets Westbrook back, everything will be fine and dandy. But let's move on to our next question here. Who do you believe, Kyle, has the most potential to be an NBA All-Star out of this year's NCAA players?
That's a great question by Jeremy Chisenhall. There are so many players in college basketball this year that are making a huge name for themselves. But you got to go with one of the freshman guys who know that they're going to be an NBA star next year.
just after their freshman season, and I'm going to go ahead and say that that person is Jabari Parker. This guy is big, he can shoot, he could play in the post. He reminds me of a Carmelo Anthony and a Paul Pierce combined. That's why I think Jabari Parker is going to be one of the better players in the NBA as soon as he comes out of college.
Jabari Parker's been my favorite player all season, actually, for the NCAA. He's done a great job over in Duke.
Darren Basage wants to know, as of today, who do you think, Connor, will be the 4 number 1 seeds going into March Madness?
I actually really, really like where everything is right now. I like Syracuse as the number 1 overall seed. I think Duke, this is going to be a tough test for him coming up. But I like Syracuse at number 1. I like Florida is surprising me there at number 2. I like Florida, 17 wins in a row, I believe it is. Wichita State is a team to me. They haven't played anybody. I get they're undefeated. That's where the arguments come in. They deserve the number 3, and Arizona is a great team. They're number 4. In my opinion, though, Michigan State, I know they've lost a lot of games here recently, but they're a good team. They're a dangerous team to watch out for this tournament this year.
So, Connor, if I heard you correctly, you think it should be Syracuse, Florida, Wichita State, and Michigan State?
No. Not for number 4, I say Arizona.
Okay, Arizona, fair enough to say. I think the injury to Brandon Ashley is going to have people, kind of write them off before the tournament starts. And that's fair because they've been losing games of late, just lost one to Arizona State. That was a tough one for them. I'm going to go ahead and say they've got it right now, other than Arizona. I think it's going to be Syracuse, Florida, Wichita State. And unfortunately, with all those losses, I think Duke is going to sneak in there, especially after I believe they're going to beat Syracuse on Saturday.
Bold. That's a bold pick. All right, next up we have JD Case. He says, how did you guys think the All-Star game ranked amongst past games? Do you think that they are losing their entertainment? Kyle, what do you think?
I think the All-Star game was a good one. And I say that because they set so many records. Carmelo Anthony set an All-Star game record with 8 threes. The two teams combined scored 330 points in this game. The previous record came in the 1980s when they scored 303 points combined. So as far as scoring is concerned and them putting on a show out there, they're doing a great job. But I would like to see them play a little bit harder. It would have been nice to see LeBron and Durant go one-on-one at some point in the game like people expected. A little bit more defense would be great, but as far as them putting on a show, which is what we want to see during All-Star Weekend, they're doing just a great job with that.
I kind of disagree with you in a way. I think the NBA All-Star Game has kind of become a joke, in my opinion. I think it's my least favorite All-Star Game of all of them. But let's get to the next question here, Kyle. Do you think Cano will make the Mariners a playoff team? If not, will the era of contracts like Cano's and Pujols's begin to stop? What do you think?
You know what? If Cano does not make the Mariners a playoff team with all the other additions they've had, I think that Tyler is definitely asking a good question here, and I think that the contracts like those will definitely stop. It's about time teams stop going big money on these players because as soon as they get that money, they stop trying. And Cano's a player who already had hustling problems in the past. I see him going to Seattle and hustling even less now that he got his paycheck. I think once they see that Cano will not help the Mariners become a playoff team in that tough division, these contracts are over with.
I don't think the contracts will ever be over with. I think big guys like Cano this season are always going to be out there. There's always going to be a guy that's going to make a lot of money. I can't tell you that this season that the Mariners will be a playoff team. I think they will be a playoff team soon. I don't think that this year they're a dead first. They're going to be a dead answer playoff team. But I think coming up, they're going to be a good playoff team soon.
Yeah, tough division they're in is what we're trying to say here. They're in a tough division, so it's going to be difficult for them to make the playoffs regardless of how good they are.
Agreed.
Next question here is from Keith Dearden. He wants to know where we think Carmelo Anthony will end up and where we think he will best fit at.
Well, I love the Lakers, and I would love for him to go to Los Angeles to play with Kobe Bryant. I know that's a far stretch, and I understand the arguments. They're not going to be able to play together. I think he will stay in New York. I think it's going to be hard for him to see him go anywhere. It's kind of like talking about LeBron James going back to Cleveland, in my opinion. But I would love to see him go out to Los Angeles and play. I think he's going to stay up north, though, whether it's where he's at right now or somewhere close. I don't think he's going to go too far.
I agree with you, Connor. I don't think he's going to go far. As a matter of fact, I don't think he's going to go anywhere at all. We heard him say during the All-Star weekend that he will stay in New York if they can give him some players to help him out. And that's what LeBron James needed, some help. I think the New York Knicks have the money to give Carmelo the help. They're going to give him the help, and the Knicks are going to start to turn it up as soon as they get that player that Carmelo Anthony can use to his advantage.
I agree. Next up, we have John Wayne. He says, Kyle, who is more solid number 1 pick, Clowney or Johnny Manziel?
This is one of the more difficult questions out there. You know, it's definitely a toss-up. It might not be either one of these guys, but we'll stick to the script here. Jadeveon Clowney is a monster, a man amongst boys. He was only a sophomore in college when he decided to come out, much like Johnny Manziel, but Clowney wasn't even a redshirt. This guy is huge. He's gonna rely on his size more than anything. I think it's Clowney because he is a man amongst boys out there. Johnny Manziel is a little bit smaller. We saw it from Russell Wilson that it can be done, but not always. I'm going to give this one to Clowney with the size.
Well, I kind of disagree with you because I don't see any chance that the Texans take defensive end. I think they definitely go quarterback. If this was between Bridgewater and Johnny, I think that would be a much more difficult decision. I think Johnny Manziel in this circumstance is the number 1 pick. But that's another discussion for another day. I don't think Johnny Manziel will end up in Houston this year, but another discussion another day.
Yeah, next question here is from Bruce Wayne. D. Leary 7894 wants to know what team, if any team, do you think has the best chance of beating Syracuse?
Duke, man. Duke. They are going on the road out down there to North Carolina, play Duke in that stadium. It's going to be rocking down there. You can guarantee it. They had a tough game recently against Pittsburgh. And that's a tough one, and it could it'd suck to see Cuse get bumped out of that top 4 and lose that number 1 seed if they lose to Duke. But Duke is the one team that I can see beating Syracuse this season. Other than that, their percentages are off the roof right now for games coming up.
Yeah, Connor, you said it correctly, man. Cameron Indoor Stadium is going to be rocking this Saturday. The Duke fans are going to be behind them the whole way. Duke's got some talent. They've got the talent to beat Syracuse. They showed that when they went to the Carrier Dome, and I think that Duke is definitely going to knock them off this week. And they also play number 14 Virginia, who's also a new ACC team. They might also lose to Virginia, but we'll wait on that one.
Yeah.
For now, Duke is going to be the team that beats them.
All right, next up, we have Derek Richmond. He says, is Michael Carter-Williams going to win Rookie of the Year?
Is Michael Carter-Williams going to win Rookie of the Year? I'd say so, because so far this class has looked a tad bit weak. Michael Carter-Williams is a player that does it all. The only thing I think is holding him back is the team he plays for. We all know the 76ers are tanking. That is the only thing holding Michael Carter-Williams back. But a Rookie of the Year award is a single-player award. Michael Carter-Williams is doing it all. So Derek Richmond, yes, Michael Carter-Williams is probably going to win that award. Next up, we have Kitch the Great. He wants to know, Connor, who do you think are the main ATP All-Stars in the world currently, top male and top female, respectively?
Little tennis here, Kyle. I like it.
How about that?
You know, Rafael Nadal is my favorite tennis player. I think he is just absolutely outstanding watching him on the court. There's just nobody I like to watch more than Rafael Nadal for the men's. And for the women's, I got to go with the USA, hometown girl, mama girl, Serena Williams. I think you are the best tennis player right now. I know you're getting a little older. I know you got Maria Sharapova out there. It's a tough decision, but I love watching these two every single time they're on the television. Doesn't matter who they're against, they always bring it all and they give it all they got every single time they're on the court. And they're fun two people to watch.
Yeah, Connor, I couldn't have said it any better, man. Serena Williams does it all. She's a great women's tennis player. And then when you look at the men's side, a lot of people like to throw Federer in there, Andy Murray. But when they
Murray's
step on,
a nice little upcoming guy.
He definitely is. But when they step on the tennis court against Rafael Nadal, it's shown and it's proven that they're no match for Nadal.
Not always. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Murray's been stepping it up here. Let's see what we got next here. We have FNL Revival. Why do you think, Kyle, or why do you guys think LeBron James is still one of the most scrutinized players in the NBA after being back-to-back champions? This is something.
I think when he asked this question, he's referring to the fact that people want him to be in the dunk contest. He's referring to the fact that people are saying LeBron's running his mouth about who he thinks should be in the Mount Rushmore. But to be honest with you, man, I think that LeBron is not really as scrutinized as he used to be, especially since he's won all these MVPs, all these NBA finals. You see what the media is kind of doing to him. They're putting him in all these commercials, making him look like a hero, you know, showing how he interacts with kids and things like that. So to be honest with you, I don't even think he's scrutinized anymore. But he definitely does deserve a little trash talk about not being in the dunk contest and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. I think he's always going to be scrutinized no matter what, and that's just how it's going to be.
Justin Dempsey wants to know, with Jeter retiring and Cano gone, who will be the new captain of the 2015 Yankees?
CC Sabathia. He's a guy that's been there a little while. I like what he's doing for the Yankees. I think he's lost a lot of weight recently. I think he's going to be a great pitcher. He's a guy to watch this season, actually, for all you baseball fans. He could be one of the best pitchers in the league this year.
Yeah, Connor, I think what you're saying is that CC Sabathia will be one of the better players on the team, but let me be honest with you, I don't think the Yankees are going to have a captain after Derek Jeter. The last one before Jeter was, I believe, Thurman Munson back in the 70s, and they only make somebody a captain of the New York Yankees when they deserve it. Right now, none of the big players on the team come up through the Yankees farm system like guys like Jeter did. All those guys have retired now. They're going to wait for somebody that they develop, comes up through their farm system, and then leads the team to 5 World Series like Jeter did before they name a new captain.
We got next here, we have Ryan Johnson. He says, will Jeter follow a Ray Lewis, Jordan type last season of his career and bring the Yankees home a 28th World Series title?
I want to go ahead and say it's possible, Ryan. I think it's definitely possible that happens. The Yankees have added a lot of new players like they do all the time. But what I like about the team this year is that they added people who love the game. Derek Jeter obviously loves the game. He's not going to be able to do it all by himself, especially at the age he's at now in his 40s. But I think with the additions of Jacoby Ellsbury, Carlos Beltran, Tanaka, I think the Yankees definitely have a chance of getting number 28 this year. Wouldn't it be great to see that in Jeter's last season as a New York Yankee?
It's going to be tough. My Dodgers, man, they're going to be good this year, and they're going to be a team to watch.
Josh Forrest here wants to know, another question about Jeter, rightfully so, that's a very popular topic in sports. He wants to know, what do you think the Yankees will do following Jeter's retirement?
The Yankees are an organization that does not take a break. They're going to go out, they're going to go find somebody that will replace Jeter the best they can, and they're going to be right back on top. The Yankees rarely fall off the block. They're in a division with some good teams and some bad teams. I think the Yankees will be fine. I think they're going to find a nice guy. I don't know exactly who's up for trade or for free agency next season, but I think the Yankees will be completely fine after Jeter retires.
Yeah, Connor, I couldn't have said that better myself. The Yankees are going to spend money when they need to, and when Jeter leaves, they're going to need to. What I want to know is what the entire MLB is going to do without Jeter. He's somebody who has role modeled his whole career. He's somebody that we want our kids to look up to someday. He's someone that we looked up to growing up. I want to know what the entire Major League Baseball is going to do without him, and I don't think any of us know the answer to that question.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to our Fan Interference, our Twitter segment. Next time, I hope we get even more tweets. That was great. That was a great job by all you guys. Next up, I'm going to send it back over to the other studio with Josh Hill, Anthony Scher, and Mike Gosnell for a little IUP basketball. Stay tuned.
Today I'm going to talk about Patty. Patty's best characteristics, she's stupid. Stupid and ugly. Everything she does is ugly. Watch her eat. Watch her stuff her face. Look at her. Greasy hair, dirty fingernails. It makes me want to vomit. Get a life, Patty. Thank you.
And we are back right here on the Big Hit. It's time for the Crimson Huddle. Joining me for that, it's our Crimson Hawks Athletic Insiders. As always, first time they were on a segment together, I'm being told, but I don't want to confirm or deny that, as Mike Gosnell and Anthony Scher join the set here. Guys, the women's team lost a crucial match with the number 3 team in the nation. They dropped to number 5 with the new rankings coming out in the Gannon Golden Knights. They maintained the lead throughout the game, let it slip away though. Who or what was to blame for this loss?
It wasn't more of a who, it was more of a what. It was a combination of things. The Crimson Hawks started off on fire from 3, and that can be explained by Lindsey Stamp. That gave them a real jolt, but heading into the second half, they couldn't hit anything. I mean, they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. I mean, Gannon was just, they knew how to play defense, and they did something that Clarion and really Seton Hill didn't do. When they played a 2-3 zone, they just let IUP shoot because IUP is a very streaky team when it comes to outside shooting. And they kept missing, and Gannon kept having their way with them in the paint because Ashley Stoner was eaten alive by Nettie Blake and Jenny Tees. And when that option wasn't available, they kicked it back out. Jen Papich, Brittany Batts, and other player like Morgan Neighbors really stepped up for them. But it was a combination of things. You can't really put your finger on one thing. But this loss, I think, is really inexcusable because they had a 13-point lead on Gannon in the first half, as much as 13. They started out really well, but they came out flat in the second half to start. They never really recovered from that, and it's a crucial loss because I was starting to believe, hey, they can pull off this upset. If they pull off this upset, who knows what happens the rest of the year? But they're sitting in a not so great position now, tied with Pitt Johnstown for 4th, and right now they don't control their own destiny right now.
I'm shocked. That was great, Goose. You really summed up that game really well. I can't say anything extra about that. I completely agree with everything you said. They didn't show up in the second half. It was a tale of two halves to me. I mean, the first half, they shot the lights out. Lindsey Stamp, Marita Matthey, Amy Fairman, they all did a great job. But in the second half, it just wasn't there for them. I mean, Lindsey Stamp, what she did in the first half, she couldn't repeat in the second half. And that's how you beat IUP, is you just let them shoot from the outside because that's what they want to do. They will kick it down to Ashley Stoner from time to time, but after that, it's all about how many threes they can hit. I think after this game, if they had been able to pull the upset, I think their season would go in the right direction. But now, after losing this game, I think they're kind of done because they have a little bit of a difficult stretch here. They have Mercyhurst, which is an improving team at home. Then they have Edinburgh, which is another top team in the country. And finally, you go to the road against Slippery Rock, who you did beat, but they are improving as well. So it's a very tough 3-game schedule. They are going to get in the PSAC tournament, but if they can't hold on to that 4th spot, they're not going to get a game here. So I can see them winning their first round game if they host it here, but after that, having to go to either Gannon or Edinburgh in the second round, I don't see them winning those games. So I think it's going to be a short postseason for the Crimson Hawks.
It's not a question of effort. I mean, you can't question the effort the Crimson Hawks put up in that game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that you go to the well too many times, it's going to come up dry sometimes. And that going up against the now number 5 team in the nation, you cannot be cold from anywhere.
Yes.
Especially when you're up by 13. There's really no excuse for that loss.
Yeah, and Gannon is a really tremendous basketball team. Have to give them all the credit in the world. Looking at the stats, I believe IUP made 1 3 in the second half, or they really poor shooting in the second half. Lindsey Stamp did make her return, however, put up 18 points off the bench. Now that she's back healthy, what would you say IUP's destiny is going to be over the next 3 games?
Well, I think it all hinges on whether they can beat Mercyhurst on Wednesday. They lost to Mercyhurst earlier in Mercyhurst, but Stamp was held to 9 points, and Lindsey Stamp's not going to be held to 9 points ever. That's a rarity for her. I think if they can beat Mercyhurst, they have good momentum, but you're going up against an Edinburgh team that's really good. Valerie Majewski is one of the top players in the PSAC. But in Edinburgh, IUP proved they can play with them. They played them really hard and made them miss a couple shots. But to me, if they can beat Mercyhurst, I think they beat Slippery Rock at the end of the year. I think they'll end the year on end the year 2-1. But those losses early in the year are really going to hamper them in even moving up, because I don't think they need to hope that Pitt Johnstown ends the year 0-2, because if they lose to Mercyhurst and Edinburgh, it's not good for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they finished 2-1. I'd be shocked if they beat Edinburgh at home. I mean, it sets up for them. They should be able to do it, but to me, I can't see them. If they're going to perform like they did against Gannon, and you can't make that same performance against Edinburgh and expect to win. So I agree with you, Goose. I think 2-1 is what I would go with. But, if they can pull a surprise here, get into that 4th spot, and really get some momentum going forward, they could make noise. But like I said earlier, I just don't see it. This team is not prepared enough to beat a team like Gannon and Edinburgh, and they're just have suffered too many losses to even be considered for the NCAA tournament.
And we all saw what Lindsey Stamp did for the Crimson Hawks in that game. She proved to be very important, but in more of a sense, she proved to be the jolt, like the jolt that this team needed to wake itself up, because Gannon was starting to get some more of the momentum in that game. But when they put Lindsey Stamp in, boy, did that change the landscape of that game.
Absolutely, and when you look at Gannon's record, 2 losses on the year, 23-2. Both of those losses coming to Edinburgh, and IUP obviously losing to Gannon, lost to Edinburgh earlier this year, should really be a difficult task. See if they can pull it off. But looking at the men's side of things, the men also played Gannon and lost to them by a score of 67-62. Silent night, really not as good as everyone had hoped it would be. What does this mean for IUP going forward?
Well, listening to the game, wonderfully broadcasted on the radio by Dan Wallace and Malusi Kitchen, it seems like the men, I think, are obviously in a much better position than the women are. I mean, they've earned their wins over the last couple weeks. The women have struggled a bit, but looking at their schedule, I really think that it's going to be very fortunate for them, because they're going to play Mercyhurst team, which I think they can beat. they can beat the Edinburgh Fighting Scots at home. I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do in Slippery Rock against a team that's very good. Maurice Lewis-Briggs, of course, we know how good he is. But I think it proved once again that IUP cannot compete with size down in the paint. I mean, they just can't do it.
I think it was a combination, and I'm going to kick it to my main man Josh here because him and I called the game as well for the IUP TV station. I think overall, I think it was a combination of the silent night and the size, but I'm not going to say this team can't handle size down low. I think it can. Yes, did they have a problem with Lewis-Briggs at Slippery Rock, but they still won the game. You know what I mean? This team is completely different than we've seen from Crimson Hawks teams in the past. They're more run and gun. They like to shoot. I mean, Marcel Superio had 21 points, 18 of which were in the second half. So this team can play with anybody. I think Silent Night affected them. They didn't hit 10 points until after the halfway mark in the first half. If they had maybe not done Silent Night, I'm not saying Silent Night is to blame for this. I think it affected them a little bit more than they had originally thought. I think this team would have won. I look at this as a wake-up call. As a team that has chances to go far in the tournament, this is a wake-up call. I mean, like, you need to do self-evaluation and see where you're going to go forward because this team is capable of winning the national championship, but they have to have their heads on straight. And I don't know if they walked into that game with their heads on straight because of the 3 big wins they had the last couple weeks.
Absolutely. Lee Vermenta was tremendous for Gannon. Of course, we want to send our congratulations, of course, to Gannon point guard. Oh, of course we do. Adam Blazak, 1,000 career points, only a junior. A very good player for Gannon. But you guys had hit on it. Just to reiterate, IUP closes out the season against Mercyhurst, Edinburgh, and Slippery Rock. What does IUP need to do from this Gannon loss to fix their kind of state and win these final 3 games?
You need to forget about it. It's one game. You sulk about it for maybe an hour or 2 after the game, then it's over with. You head into practice, you work hard, and you correct the things that went wrong. I would not want to be Mercyhurst tomorrow because they're in a bad position because IUP is not going to be very happy. And I know Coach Lombardi's probably chewing them out in practice, saying this is what you got to do. I think they respond very well against Mercyhurst. And like I said, you have to forget about it. I'm sure they have. It's a loss, but you take it in stride. You have 3 more games to prove yourself.
I look at it like this. Something happened over the weekend that kind of helped them out. Fairmont State beat West Liberty. Gave West Liberty their 2nd loss on the year. So now IUP is looking at it as we have 3 losses. If we can finish this stretch here, go 3-0, get the 2nd seed in the PSAC West, win that 2nd round game, go to East Stroudsburg and win the PSAC, you have a legitimate argument to be the #1 seed in the region because you beat a team that West Liberty had lost to, which is Notre Dame College. And you would have beat probably a top 5 team in the country at their gym in East Stroudsburg. There's an opportunity there. The fates have kind of worked out for them, but they have to take care of business. They cannot walk into an arena thinking they're just going to win games because that's just not going to happen anymore. They're going to be tested every day because they're a top 10 team in this country and they deserve to be, but people are going to give them their best game. So I think that they have to do, like I said, a little self-evaluation, and I agree with you. I would not want to be Mercyhurst come Wednesday night because I would not be surprised if they blow them out by 30. Because I think when you beat this team, they come back and they respond, and I think that's kind of the most important factor going forward into a tournament.
Absolutely. You have to watch the film, have to continue to put your nose to the grindstone. And finally, when it's all said and done, where do you think IUP is going to finish in the final PSAC West standings this year?
I think they have to hope Gannon loses again. But looking at their Gannon schedule, Pitt, Johnstown, Clarion, not exactly the most difficult schedule. IUP has a bit more difficult schedule. They have 3 more games. Gannon has 2. I think Gannon gets the #1 seed, but I'm not going to put anything past this Crimson Hawks basketball team. The improbable has happened a lot, but I'm not questioning it. But I think IUP is going to get 2nd, but I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. They worked hard. It just one loss can do it for you sometimes.
I actually like that they're going to finish 2nd. I have them finishing 2nd. It works out for them because if they go in the PSAC tournament and all the top seeds advance, which sometimes happens, you would get East Stroudsburg in the semifinals and potential rematch with Gannon in the championship, which works out for you because I'd rather have those 2 teams on my resume than blowing out a team like Westchester or something like that, or Bloomsburg. If you're playing at 2 teams that are going to be in the top 25 in this country, a team that beat you twice and then top 5 team in the country in East Stroudsburg with 1 loss, that looks great on your resume, and that could give you a chance to host the region again. I like it. They're not going to win the West, but it doesn't matter because they can win the championship still.
Yeah, it should really be a tremendous final stretch of the season. Wednesday, Mercyhurst Saturday against Edinburgh, and finishing off the regular season next Wednesday on the road against Slippery Rock. That's all the time we have here for the Crimson Huddle. For Mike Gosnell and Anthony Shear, coming up after the break, Sean McCarthy hands out his Churlish Player of the Week in the 2-minute drill. Stay tuned.
I'm a big believer in the power of we. We can tackle the tough challenges we face and build community through service and volunteering. It's time for you to raise your hand. Go to serve.gov and get involved in something you believe in.
How will you raise your hand when they call your name?
Are you with me?
We weren't born to follow.
Hello, world, and welcome back to the Big Hit. This is a 2-minute drill, and I am Sean P. McCarthy. The NBA All-Star Game ended with the East defeating the West and Kyrie Irving of the Cleveland Cavaliers winning MVP. I think it's time for the NBA to do away with the All-Star Game because absolutely no defense is played. In a sport where good defense is hard to come by without a foul being called, the All-Star Game is the epitome of lack of defense. This year's game set a record for most points scored with a combined score of 318. Kyrie scored 31 points and 14 assists in his MVP effort, only missing 3 shots. That just illustrates how bad the defense was. When a player scores that many points and only misses 3 shots, Blake Griffin set a record with 19 buckets made. Griffin only missed 4 shots, going 19 for 23, and ended with 38 points. There's no point of playing a game if no one is going to play both sides of the ball. The game means nothing, and it shows. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines because the Daytona 500 is this Sunday. It is the year's biggest race, and only the lucky can raise the Harley J. Earl Trophy in Victory Lane. Austin Dillon will be leading the pack in the pole position. The driver in the pole position has finished first in the 500 9 times since 1959. The most recent was Dale Jarrett in the year 2000. Other notable drivers in their starting position is Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon starting in the 7th and 8th spot respectively. Last year's 500 winner and also Sprint Cup champion Jimmy Johnson will start 14th. Denny Hamlin in the 11 FedEx car will start 22nd, and Tony Stewart will start 35th in the 14 car. It's that time again. It's this week's Churlish Person. This week's Churlish Person award goes to all the people that voted for Kevin Hart to win the Celebrity All-Star Game MVP. Hart ended up with a poor 7 points and 4 assists and an enormous 0 rebounds. Not really MVP worthy at all. Kevin manned up and gave the award to U.S. Secretary of Education Arnie Duncan, who deserved the votes the most. Duncan messed around and got a double-double, calculating 20 points, 6 assists, and 11 rebounds. His 20-point performance set a Celebrity All-Star Game record, and yet the viewers did not give him the votes he needed. Celebrity All-Star Game viewers and fans, stop making a popularity contest with everything you do and give credit to the deserving, because you, my fellow fans, are churlish. That's all the time we have for the Big Hit today. For Director Danielle Eberly, producers Dimitri George and Dan Wallace, I'm Sean P. McCarthy. Don't be churlish. Keep it fresh.